These are my current collection of trackballs, and I'm afraid they're growing at an alarming rate. But in this video, I'll talk about my experiences and what I have liked and disliked about trackballs so that people who also might be interested in joining this hobby can have a better understanding. So one of the biggest questions I have seen in forums and Reddit posts is that are trackballs hard to learn? Well, the short answer is no, and you'll most likely just need to sacrifice a few days of discomfort. But if you are already dissatisfied with your current mouse, then that's also a great starting point to switch to trackballs. If you have used trackpads on laptops, then the experience is actually quite similar, but instead of a flat surface, you are tracking with a ball. Of course, minus the gestures you can do with trackpads. The next concern of many people is what trackball should they get. Basically, you can categorize trackballs into the following: index-operated trackballs and thumb-operated trackballs. It all comes down to preference, but I have found that index-operated trackballs with bigger sized balls were easier to use for me. To explain my point further, index-operated trackballs can be controlled by your index, middle, and ring finger, while your thumb and pinky finger are used for clicking. Tracking with this kind of trackball can be easier for many people, though its downside is the adjustment period of trying to use your thumb and pinky finger for clicking, since with our regular mouse, we are used to these three main fingers for clicking, and that's where thumb-operated trackballs shine since its button layout is identical to a regular mouse. Though with my usage, I found that I was less accurate with thumb trackballs as you have less room for movement. However, don't let that bother you, as you just need practice to be able to use these kinds of trackballs. A follow-up question is, what specific model of trackball should you get? Well, here's a quick guide of the current available index-operated trackballs in the market. This is incomplete by the way, but for beginners, it should be a good enough guide. If you prefer bigger sized balls, I recommend the Kensington Expert and Kensington Slim Blade, as these are fairly easy to get, though they are quite expensive. A quick warning as well is that it's always better to go for more known brands that have good quality control, since I have the ProtoArc trackball which came from a less known company, and sadly the one I got had tracking problems as the ball gets stuck every now and then, and that's one of the most crucial things you should keep in mind with trackballs. The quality of tracking is really important, therefore the ball must be as round as possible, the tolerances of the plastic should be precise, and the type of bearing must be smooth enough. And with the ProtoArc trackball I got, though its shape was great, the quality of the sensor and the ball getting stuck was a huge deal breaker. So always keep this in mind if you want to have a good experience with trackballs. For example, the ergonomics of the Elecom Huge and Def Pro are great, though its downside is that you have to do a DIY mod for its bearings, which for beginners can be a daunting task. And based on my experience, though it was a pretty easy mod, the stiction from the ball was still there, so my Elecom Huge right now is just sitting on the shelf. Now, here's another quick guide but for thumb-operated trackballs. I personally don't have that good knowledge of this, and so far I've only tested the thumb trackball from Logitech. Though it might look complicated, all thumb trackballs are more or less the same, and it all comes down to the quality and shape. So if you choose to be a thumb trackball user, or you already are, you have more choices than index-operated trackballs. Let's now say that you finally got your trackball. Well, aside from just enjoying your time with it, there's another reminder that you need to keep in mind, and that's cleaning it regularly. You see, trackballs can easily accumulate a lot of dirt and gunk, especially with most of the available ones having these static bearings or balls. When these balls get dirty, you might have problems with the smoothness of your tracking, and generally, it's just better to clean this as many times as you can. That's why other folks are inclined to use trackballs with these roller bearings like the ones from Floopy. Aside from the fact that they are smoother than static bearings, you also don't need to clean them that often. However, the downside is that these bearings can quite be noisy and scratchy at times. If you're still confused, I highly suggest searching your marketplace first to see what trackballs are available for you, and read reviews abuse of that trackball, since some trackballs are harder to get depending on what country you are in right now. And lastly, don't be too scared of going into the rabbit hole of trackballs. It's actually quite a small rabbit hole, and you'll eventually hit a wall sooner than you might think. But aside from those things, just make sure to enjoy your time with trackballs.